The vast emptiness of space was broken only by a thin, crackling pulse on the communications array aboard Outpost Vega 7, nestled precariously on the edge of the Deathworld cluster. For months, the outpost had been a silent guardian watching, a stretch of dead star systems, no traffic, no signals, just the distant hum of cosmic radiation and the whisper of the void. But now, amid routine chatter and sensor scans, the array suddenly lit up. An alien SOS, fractured and desperate, shattered the monotony. The call wasn't in any known language, but its urgency was unmistakable, a raw, primal plea for help that echoed across the comm channels. Breaking the usual protocols, Lieutenant Kara Voss stared at the screen, her brow furrowed. What the hell is that? Her radio crackled. Unknown origin. Signal strength is low but consistent. It's coming from the surface of Deathworld, Gamma Sector 9. The planet was infamous, scarred by storms of corrosive acid, ravaged by gigantic, predatory beasts, and largely uninhabitable to anything without thick armor and a death wish. The Deathworlders, a brutal species native to the cluster, had fought countless wars over this forsaken rock, and humanity's outpost here was meant as a listening post, a thin human presence on the frontier. But this SOS was different. It wasn't just a distress call, it was a warning. And somewhere in Kira's gut, a spark of curiosity and something deeper flared. In the cramped command center of Outpost Vega 27, tension rose. Captain Luis Brandt leaned forward, rubbing his temples. Beneath the harsh glow of the holoscreen displaying the SOS waveform, his voice was measured but firm. We're not authorized to investigate unknown signals in Deathworld territory. We risk diplomatic incidents, and worse. Kara's fingers hovered over the console. Sir, ignoring SOS violates every protocol. In the book, if someone's out there, dying, or worse, we have a duty. This signal isn't just distress, it's desperate. Something is happening. Across the room, the communications officer, a young woman named Eli Tanaka, chimed in. I analyzed the pattern. It's unlike anything we've decoded before, no known language. But the emotional markers are clear: panic, urgency, and fear. Whoever sent this, a violent tremor shook the outpost, rattling the consoles and sending a cascade of alarms echoing through the corridors. What the hell was that? Brandt demanded. Eli's eyes widened. Seismic activity. Local sensors. Registering massive ground movement. It's coming from the surface. Moments later, outside the reinforced glass viewport, the alien landscape of Deathworld Gamma stretched out, a wild, savage expanse of jagged cliffs and dense, toxic jungles, pulsating with bioluminescent flora. The planet's storms churned on the horizon, swirling with violet lightning. Below, the ground cracked open like a wound. A deep rumble shook the planet's core, a primal growl from beneath the surface. The alien SOS suddenly made sense. Was a call to stop something ancient and dangerous from waking. Against orders, but fueled by resolve. Kara prepared her drop squad for a rapid response. We don't have time to wait for reinforcements. We go in fast, assess the situation, and if we can help, we do. Captain Brandt hesitated, but seeing the determination in Kara's eyes, he nodded grimly. You have 48 hours. Don't get yourselves killed. The squad's dropship tore through the toxic atmosphere, plunging into the dense jungle where the SOS originated. The thick canopy closed in, full of strange, predatory sounds, a harsh reminder that Deathworld was no friendly place. Their boots hit the ground in a clearing, where the SOS signal blared louder through their cums. The air was thick and heavy, alive with strange scents and the hum of alien insects. Suddenly, the earth trembled again. From the forest floor, the ground split, revealing a cavern mouth that pulsed with faint blue light. The squad's scanners went haywire. Kara swallowed hard. Whatever's down there, it's huge. Inside the cavern, the walls glittered with crystalline growths. The air hummed with energy, and the SOS signal grew sharper, closer. The squad pressed deeper, navigating treacherous ledges and narrow passes. Then they saw it, half buried in the stone and roots, a colossal former biomechanical giant, dormant but unmistakably alive. Its surface was a fusion of metal and organic tissue, covered with ancient markings that flickered with faint energy. Its enormous limbs sprawled across the cavern, muscles like braided cables, veins pulsing with luminescent liquid. The giant's chest cavity housed a core glowing with eerie, lighter heartbeat of alien technology. Kara's voice was a whisper. "We've found it. The giant... .. Before they could react, the giant shuddered. A deep growl echoed through the cavern, and its eyes flickered open, brilliant, intelligent, and furious. The ancient titan was waking. Suddenly, the cavern walls shook violently. The squad scrambled for cover as cracks spiderwebbed through the ceiling. Outside, the tremors intensified, signaling the giant's stirring was felt across the planet. Back at the outpost, the SOS alien's message came into full context. The giant was not just a relic, but a weapon, one meant to be dormant until a dire threat arose. But something had triggered it too soon. The cavern trembled beneath the weight of the giant's awakening. Karavos and her squad barely kept their footing as the ancient titan shifted, its biomechanical frame groaning like a dying star cracking open. The air thrummed with power raw, primeval energy radiating from the giant's core, pulsing with an almost living heartbeat. "What do we do?" Sergeant Malik hissed, gripping his pulse rifle tightly as dust rained down from the cavern ceiling. "We hold position," Kara replied, voice calm but tight. "We need to figure out if it's hostile or ... something else." The giant's eyes blazed with shifting hues, deep blue, then crimson, then a cold silver. The light seeped into the cavern like liquid fire. A low, resonant sound rolled through, the air vibrating the very molecules around them. Suddenly, the ground outside the cavern exploded in a series of massive shockwaves, tearing up the dense jungle in all directions. The seismic sensors back at Outpost Vega 7 flared red. Something huge was moving beneath the surface, outside the cave. Far beyond the trembling trees, a series of ancient ruins lay half swallowed by the Deathworld's relentless growth. These ruins, massive, angular, and alien, were long thought abandoned, relics of an extinct civilization. Now they thrummed with energy, responding to the giant's stirring. From the dark shadows of the jungle emerged the Deathworlders, towering, heavily muscled beings, clad in organic armor that pulsed with bioluminescent veins. Their eyes were fierce and wild, reflecting the stormy sky as they charged toward the epicenter of the disturbance, back inside the cavern. Kara's team kept their eyes locked on the giant. Slowly, the titan's massive hand moved, fingers cracking like thunder. Its body flexed, releasing a wave of ancient power that sent sparks arcing through the air. Then, a sudden burst of static crackled through their cums, and a strange voice filtered in, alien, but unmistakably alive. The voice was fragmented, layered with static, yet urgent. Stop. Awakening. Danger. Invader. Kara's heart pounded. The alien SOS caller had warned them this was the danger. The giant wasn't just a weapon, it was a sentinel. But against what? Suddenly, the giant's chest cavity opened, revealing a pulsating orb surrounded by concentric rings of glowing symbols. It emitted a brilliant beam of light that shot into the sky, piercing the thick jungle canopy and reaching into the void beyond. The shockwave from this burst rippled through the planet. Trees bent and snapped, rivers shifted course, and far away, hidden eyes in the darkness blinked Deathworlder. Warbands stirred. Sensing the call, on the surface, the Deathworlders assembled. Their leader, a massive figure named Varkon Bloodclaw, snarled as he raised his bioplasma spear. His clan had long awaited the return of the Geonta, legend of power that would decide the fate of their world. This is the time of prophecy, Varkon growled to his war council. The giant has stirred. We must claim it or be crushed beneath its shadow. His warband roared in approval, their voices a storm of fury that rolled across the land like a hurricane. Meanwhile, Kara's squad was racing back to the dropship through the collapsing cavern. The giant's movements had destabilized the subterranean structure. Rocks fell, and fissures cracked open beneath their feet. Faster. Kara barked, adrenaline sharpening her senses. She was the first to leap onto the ramp of their ship as the cave mouth began to collapse behind them. The dropship shot upward, dodging falling debris as the planet quaked beneath them. Back in orbit, the human command was in chaos. Captain Brandt stared at the incoming data satellite images showed massive energy spikes, seismic upheavals, and clusters of Deathworlder forces mobilizing like never before. We've triggered something, Brandt muttered. And now, the Deathworlders are on the move. The outpost's sensors picked up an ominous pattern. The giant's pulse was a beacon, and it was waking more than just ancient machinery. Entire Deathworlder clans were converging on the giant's location, preparing for war. Inside the dropship, Kara's team was tense but determined. Their mission had changed. No longer were they mere explorers, they were now caught in the middle of an unfolding planetary-scale conflict. We have to get back to the outpost and warn them, Kara said. If the giant's awakening draws the Deathworlders into a full-scale war, no one survives. Malik nodded, eyes dark with grim resolve. We're not just fighting a planet anymore. This is something bigger, something cosmic. Kara clenched her jaw. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning, that something older and more terrible was stirring behind the giant's slow awakening. The giant, meanwhile, had risen partially from the earth, its massive limbs flexing as it took in its surroundings with eyes glowing like twin suns. Its voice deep, reverberating in the minds of those nearby, spoke without words, a warning and a plea: protect or perish. The ancient titan was alive, it was powerful, and it was awake as the dropship streaked away from the Deathworld's surface. Kara looked back at the trembling planet below a world that had just awoken an ancient force, one that the fires of war were already burning, deep in the jungles of Deathworld Gamma. The Deathworlders stirred like a storm awakened. Word of the giant's awakening had spread through their clans faster than wildfire, carried on the wings of brutal war messengers riding massive bioscarabs and armored beasts. The clans, once fractured by centuries of blood feuds and rivalry, were uniting under the shadow of the giant's return, whether out of reverence, fear, or ambition. Varkan Bloodclaw, towering over his war council, paced with a savage grace. His scarred face twisted into a snarl as he addressed his chiefs. The giant is our destiny. It is our god and our weapon. To control it is to command Deathworld Command, the cluster beyond. Around the fire, tribal leaders bared their teeth and sharpened their weapons-bone clubs, dripping with venom. Whips of living tendrils, plasma spears, humming with lethal energy. The humans trespass and awaken what should have remained buried, snarled Drekka, the ruthless warlord of the Fang clan. We will show them the price of defiance. Far above, orbiting the Deathworld, the human command ship Sentinel buzzed with alarms and frantic activity. Captain Luis Brandt and his senior officers crowded around the tactical display, watching the sudden spike of hostile Deathworlder activity. We're looking at simultaneous mobilization of at least 5 major clans. Brandt said grimly. They're not just raiding, they're organizing for war. We've never seen them move this fast or this coordinated. Tactical Officer Vega tapped a cluster of glowing red dots converging on a projected map. They're heading toward the giant's last known location. They want control, or they want to destroy it. We can't let them take it, Brandt muttered. The giant is too powerful in the wrong hands. Prepare all defensive measures, alert outposts, and send reinforcements to the nearby colonies. Back on the planet's surface, Kara Voss led her squad through thick, hostile terrain. The jungle was alive with unseen dangers, predatory vines snapping like jaws, toxic spores drifting like poison snow. Every shadow could conceal an enemy. Their mission had shifted from reconnaissance to survival and warning. Deathworlder warbands were striking suddenly, hitting vulnerable human outposts with brutal efficiency. Kara's come crackled with a desperate voice. This is Outpost Deltanda. Attack. They're using bio-augmented beasts we've never seen before. We're outgunned and outnumbered. We're en route, Kara said firmly, adjusting her armor. Hold tight. Reinforcements are coming. The Deathworlders were unlike any foe humans had faced before. Their bodies were forged in the crucible of Gamma's savage environment, muscular, with skin like bark and veins glowing faintly in the darkness. Their eyes burned with the fire of relentless survival and ancient hatred. The clans fought not just with weapons, but with terrifying biotechnological symbiosis. Claws laced with venom could dissolve steel. Flesh and machine merged into living armor, shifting and healing in battle. Each Deathworlder was a walking weapon, and their war cries struck fear into the hearts of even the most hardened soldiers. During a fierce skirmish near Outpost Delta, Kara's squad encountered a war party led by a fierce Deathworlder, Champion Tall, scarred and wielding a brutal whip of living tendrils. The battle was chaotic, a brutal dance of gunfire and savage strikes. Kara ducked a whiplash and fired, hitting the champion's arm. The Deathworlder roared in pain, but retaliated with a surge of bioenergy that knocked several humans off their feet. As the squad fought desperately, Malik covered their rear, calling out orders and moving with lethal precision. Keep moving. We can't let them flank us. Amidst the carnage, Kara's squad managed to break the assault, forcing the war party to retreat, but the encounter left no doubt. The Deathworlders were no mere raiders. They were preparing for full-scale war. That night, back in their temporary camp, Kara sat near the flickering fire with her team. Exhausted and bloodied, she looked to Malik. They're more organized than we thought. And this is just the beginning. Malik nodded. They know what's coming. They want the giant. They see it as the key to survival and domination. We need to find a way to control it first, Kara said quietly, before the Deathworlders do. Meanwhile, high in the jagged cliffs overlooking the jungle, an ancient figure watched silently. The SOS alien, whose name was Nail, had joined Kara's team after their arrival. His tall, slender form was wrapped in intricate robes that shimmered with alien symbols. His eyes, sharp and calculating, held centuries of knowledge and sorrow. Nail spoke softly, his voice barely audible over the crackling fire. The giant is not just a weapon. It is a guardian built by my people long ago to defend against a threat older than even the Deathworlders. Kara looked at him, skeptical but intrigued. Then why warn us? Why send the SOS? Because, Nail said, it's awakening signals that threats return. We have little time. And now, the Deathworlders move not only to claim the giant, but to prepare for what comes next. The next morning, the Deathworlder clans gathered in an enormous war council deep within the cavernous ruins beneath Deathworld Gamma's surface. Fires blazed and shadows danced on ancient walls carved with stories of forgotten gods and endless war. Varkan Bloodclaw stood before the assembly, his voice thunderous. We will take what is ours by right of blood and honor. The giant will rise with Usor. It will be our tomb. Cheers erupted, echoing like thunder through the ruins. But beneath, the war cries. An undercurrent of fear rippled through the clan sphere of the unknown threat awakening beyond the giant's fury. The ancient prophecies spoke of a darkness that would consume all life. The Deathworlders had one choice: unite or perish, as humanity prepared for the coming storm. The Sentinel's command deck hummed with urgency, every light blinking warnings and updates as the Deathworlder clans closed in on the giant's location. Captain Luis Brandt paced between consoles, the weight of the situation settling heavily. On his shoulders, the giant is no longer just a relic, Brandt said, voice low but fierce. It's a pivot point for everything happening in this cluster. If the Deathworlders seize control, it could mean the end of our presence here. Beside him, Nail, the alien who had first sent the SOS, watched silently, eyes reflecting the holomap of the planet's surface. His slender fingers traced the projected energy lines that pulsed from the giant. We do not have the luxury of enemies, Nail said softly. Our fates are intertwined. The giant was built by my ancestors to protect against an ancient invader, one that will not stop at Deathworld Gamma. Meanwhile, back on the surface, Kara Voss and her squad moved cautiously through a newly fortified human base near the giant's awakening site. Scientists and engineers bustled with urgent activity, trying to analyze the colossal titan's mysterious systems. But military personnel stood guard, weapons ready, their faces etched with tension. Captain Voss, Dr. Anara Morel, the lead xenobiologist, greeted her. The giant is unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's a fusion of organic and technological components, a hybrid intelligence. Kara studied the shimmering data streams. Can we control it? Anara shook her head. Not yet. But we've discovered a neural interface inside the giant's core, something that may allow a living mind to merge with it. The revelation split the command center. Some officers advocated destroying the giant outright, fearing its uncontrollable power. Others, led by Brandt and Nail, pushed to study and harness it. Into this fracture stepped Major Rylan Crosser, charismatic but ruthless military officer with his own agenda. His voice cut through the debate like a blade. We cannot gamble on coexistence with these Deathworlders or this alien machine. Cross said sharply. The giant is a threat to human sovereignty. I propose immediate termination by force. If necessary, Brant's eyes narrowed, and risk igniting an interspecies war. You'd rather see the giant destroyed and the cluster plunged into chaos. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary for survival, Cross replied, cold and unwavering. Tensions escalated behind the scenes as Cross covertly orchestrated a sabotage mission. His plan: disrupt the scientists' work, discredit Neil's warnings, and seize command of the giant's systems for the military's absolute control. One night, under the cover of a violent electrical storm, Cross's operatives infiltrated the research lab. Their weapons were silent, their movements deadly. But Anara Morell's team detected the breach just in time. Chaos exploded. The saboteurs triggered a failsafe, unleashing a swarm of microscopic biodefense drones that had been dormant within the giant's core. The drones spread like living fire, attacking anything they perceived as hostile. Kara's squad was caught in the blast radius. Alarms screamed as the drones infiltrated the base's ventilation and power systems. Soldiers fell, their armor corroded by the drone's corrosive attack. Evacuate. Get to the dropships, Kara shouted, her voice cutting through the panic. Malik fought off drones with his pulse rifle, but the swarm adapted quickly. They're too fast. They're breaking through the perimeter. Nail appeared, hands glowing with strange energy as he unleashed a pulse that disrupted the drones temporarily. This is no mere defense mechanism, he said grimly. It is the giant's final warning. Do not provoke it. Outside, the storm raged. Lightning illuminated the frantic evacuation as soldiers and scientists fled toward the extraction. Point. Captain Brandt, coordinating from a command post, was furious. Major Cross, report. What the hell happened? Cross's voice was steady but defensive. Sabotage, sir. We were compromised. I'm securing the perimeter. Brandt's gaze hardened. This isn't sabotage, it's mutiny. I want those responsible detained immediately. As the base stabilized, Kara confronted Cross privately. You risked everyone's lives for... What? Control. Power, she demanded. Cross's eyes were cold, unrepentant. The giant is a weapon, not a pet. If we don't control it, the Deathworlders will. And then humanity loses everything. Kara shook her head. You're playing with fire you don't understand. Meanwhile, Nail and Anara worked tirelessly to stabilize the giant's systems. The neural interface shimmered with potential, but required a living mind willing to merge and guide the ancient intelligence. Nail revealed a grim truth. The giant's consciousness is fragmented, guarded by echoes of its creators. Merging with it risks losing oneself to an ancient will. Kara, watching the data, realized what this meant. It's not just technology, it's alive, alivened. Lonely, Nell replied softly, and now it has awakened in a galaxy filled with enemies. As night fell on Deathworld Gamma, the uneasy alliance between humans and the alien SOS caller strained under the weight of war and mistrust. The Deathworlder clans were on the move, driven by blood and prophecy. The giant stirred, vast and inscrutable. The cavern's depths held a silence so profound it seemed to swallow sound itself. The giant stood motionless, a colossal sentinel etched with ancient glyphs glowing faintly beneath its metallic skin. Its pulsing Kortha neural interface awaited. the touch of a living mind to awaken its true power. Kara Voss stood at the threshold, the weight of fate pressing down on her like the crushing air around the giant. She glanced at Nail, whose pale eyes held centuries of wisdom yet betrayed a flicker of worry. "Are you sure this is the only way?" Kara asked quietly. Nail nodded. "The giant cannot be controlled from outside. It requires a living connection. But know this, once merged, you are vulnerable to its ancient will. Your mind and its consciousness will intertwine." Malik stood beside her, rifle ready, his jaw clenched but supportive. "If we don't try, the Deathworlders will take it tanned. Then we lose everything." Inside the research outpost, a hastily constructed neural interface chamber hummed with energy. Scientists monitored every system, while soldiers kept vigilant watch against the Deathworlder warbands gathering beyond the jungle's edge. Kara was strapped into the neural harness, her mind racing. The interface's cold tendrils reached out, like spectral fingers, connecting to her neural pathways. The room's lights dimmed, and a strange, humming resonance filled the air. "Stay with me," she whispered to Malik, who grasped her hand firmly. The interface activated. Her vision exploded into a kaleidoscope of images, ancient memories of an alien race long vanished. Their final days before the giant machine was buried beneath the planet's surface. She saw wars that burned stars, dark shadows creeping across galaxies, and the giant's creators sacrificing everything to build their last guardian. Voices whispered in a language she couldn't understand, yet somehow felt familiar. Then, a sudden jolt of pain, the giant's consciousness probed her, mind tentative, curious, and wary. It was alive, but fragmented. Parts of it were bound by purpose, others haunted by loss and rage. A voice echoed in her thoughts, not words, but emotion: protect or perish. Suddenly, the mental landscape shifted. Kara found herself standing in a vast void, facing a shimmering figure-part machine, part living entities, glowing like twin stars. "You have awoken me," it said, voice deep and resonant. "Why do you seek control?" "I seek to protect my people from your enemies, the Deathworlders, and the darkness they cannot see." Kara answered firmly. The giant's consciousness pulsed with uncertainty. To merge is to surrender. "Your mind will change." "I understand," she said, "but I am willing." Back in the real world, the outpost trembled. Deathworlder warbands had launched their assault, testing human defenses with ferocious strikes and brutal tactics. Major Cross led a desperate counterattack, his face grim beneath his helmet. "This isn't just a war for territory," Cross growled over comes. "It's a war for survival." Despite his earlier sabotage, now his goal was clear: hold the line long enough for Kara to succeed. Inside Kara's mind, the giant reached out, deeper memories, fears, and hope intertwined. She felt the weight of millennia pressing down, a responsibility far beyond her own life. But with it came strength and immense power surging through her veins. The giant's systems responded to her thoughts, limbs moving in the mental void as if awaiting command. Suddenly, she felt a pulsar warning. Something ancient and malevolent stirred beyond the planet. A shadow lurking in the void, watching and waiting. The darkness approaches, the giant's voice warned. "We must prepare." Kara's consciousness snapped back. She gasped, the neural interface releasing her. Malik was at her side instantly, concern etched on his face. "What did you see?" "The Deathworlders aren't the only threat," Kara said, voice shaking but resolute. There's something worse coming, something that even the giant was built to fight. Neil's eyes darkened. The ancient invader returns. It is why my people built the giant, to be a sentinel against extinction. Captain Brandt entered, urgency written in every line of his face. What's our next move? Kara met his gaze. We finished the merge. The giant is more than a weapon, it's our last hope. But we have to unite humans, Deathworlders, and Neil's people if we want to survive what's coming. Outside the fortified outpost, the Deathworlders had paused their assault. Varkan Bloodclaw, sensing the giant's rising power, called his warbands to a halt. This is no ordinary battle, Varkan said grimly. The giant stirs with something old and terrible. We must prepare for war, ... and for survival. His clans whispered in fear and awe. The ancient prophecies spoke of a darkness that consumed worlds, and now it seemed that nightmare had awakened inside the command ship Sentinel. Brandt convened a high-stakes council with his senior officers, Nail, and representatives of allied Deathworlder clans who had cautiously approached peace. We stand on the edge of oblivion, Brandt said. Our only chance is cooperation. The giant is the key. Nail stepped forward. The neural interface will allow a bridge between species and minds. Together, we can awaken the giant fully and wield it against the darkness. Skepticism filled the room, but the threat was undeniable. Back on the surface, Kara prepared for the final merge. She donned the neural harness once more, this time not alone. Beside her stood a Deathworlder, chieftain-strong, scarred eyes fierce but respectful. Varkan himself had agreed to the alliance, knowing that only together could they hope to face the cosmic shadow as the interface engaged. Kara felt a surge of unity, human and Deathworlder minds intertwined through the giant's consciousness. The ancient sentinel awakened, its full power roaring like a waking titan. But in the depths of space, something darker. The uneasy alliance between humans and Deathworlders was fragile, hanging by threads of mistrust and desperation. The neural merge had awakened the giant, its colossal form stirring beneath the jungle canopy with a slow, earth-shaking groan. The ground trembled as ancient mechanisms powered up, and the air vibrated with latent energy. Yet, even as the alliance took its first steps toward unity, a far darker menace unfurled its shadow across the stars, far beyond the orbit of Deathworld. Gamma, in the cold vacuum of deep space, a dark vessel drifted silently. Its design was unlike any known race, organic, yet metallic, alive and yet machine. Within its shadowed hull, something ancient stirred, an eldritch presence, older than the stars themselves had sensed the giant's awakening. It was drawn like a moth to a flame, an ancient predator returning to reclaim what it had lost eons ago. Back on Gamma, Captain Louis Brandt and Nail monitored the giant's rising power from the command ship Sentinel. The neural interface projected a shimmering image of the Titan's awakening, its massive limbs flexing like a god returning to life. Neil's eyes were grave. The giant was designed as a sentinel, an eternal guardian against an enemy beyond imagining. But its awakening has sent a beacon across space. Brandt's fingers tightened on the console. Meaning, the ancient invader, Nail said, quietly is coming. It consumes worlds and extinguishes stars. We have little time. Kara, still connected to the giant's neural interface, felt a deep disturbance ripple through the vast mind she now shared. The giant's senses reached beyond Gamma, detecting the dark vessel's approach. A cold dread seeped into her thoughts. This enemy was unlike anything she had fought, a shadow not only in space, but in the very fabric of reality. Meanwhile, tensions simmered within the Alliance. Deathworlder chieftain Varkan Bloodclaw was restless. At a war council deep in the jungle, Varkan's voice rumbled. Humans fear the giant's power. Some among them seek to control it for their own gain. His clan leaders murmured agreement. We gave up centuries of war to unite. But can we trust those who wield ancient machines they barely understand? Kara stood firm. Without the giant, none of us stand a chance. We either stand together, or we fall divided. Varkan's eyes locked on hers, battle-hardened and calculating. Then prove it. Back on the battlefield, near the outpost, Deathworlder warbands clashed violently with human reinforcements loyal to Major Cross. His forces, despite their discipline, were strained by guerrilla tactics and the planet's hostile environment. Cross's voice echoed over the cum. We fight for survival, but also control. The giant is a weapon and no alliance will stop me from securing it. His operatives launched a surprise attack on a joint human Deathworlder patrol. The battle erupted in a chaotic maelstrom of plasma fire and savage claws. Kara and Malik led a counterstrike, fighting desperately to hold the fragile peace in the heart of the giant's neural core. Kara felt the struggle not just around her but within the giant itself. Its ancient intelligence wrestled with her own will, seeking control, testing limits. Suddenly, the giant's thoughts were invaded not by Kara, but by something alien and hostile. A shadow within the shadow. The dark vessel's influence had reached the giant's mind, attempting to corrupt its purpose. Kara gasped as tendrils of dark energy snaked through the neural interface, threatening to sever her connection and plunge the giant into chaos. Hold on, Neil's voice crackled. In her mind, with great effort, Kara summoned all her will and the giant's power surged in response. The ancient sentinel fought back, a titanic mental battle raging beneath the surface of reality. Above the planet, the dark vessel released its payload, shimmering tendrils of corruption that rained down like a plague. The jungles twisted and writhed as the invasive energy infected flora and fauna, turning Deathworld Gamma's savage environment into a nightmare. Varkan roared, rallying his clans. This is no longer a war for the giant. It is a war for our very world. Deathworlders and humans alike scrambled to repel the spreading corruption. Fighting side by side for survival, Captain Brandt ordered full planetary lockdown, mobilizing every available ship to intercept the dark vessel. We're not just fighting Deathworlders anymore, he said grimly. We're fighting extinction. Nail prepared a desperate gambit. If the giant falls, the cluster falls. But if we can harness its full power, we might turn the tide. He looked at Kara. You are the giant's heart. You must hold it, no matter the cost. As the dark tide surged, Kara and the giant reached deeper into the neural interface, searching for a way to purge the corruption in a moment of clarity. Kara glimpsed a forgotten memory, a hidden protocol embedded by the giant's creators. A weapon not of destruction, but of rebirth. Giant can cleanse itself, Kara realized, but it requires a sacrifice. Molik's voice was steady beside her. Whatever it takes, we're with you. The war raged. Alliances were The sky above Deathworld Gamma burned with unnatural light. The jungle convulsed beneath a dark plague, its twisted corruption spreading like wildfire as the ancient invaders' influence crept over the land. The monstrous dark vessel hung in orbit, a silent predator poised to strike again. Inside the neural chamber, Kara's body trembled, sweat pouring down her face as the giant's consciousness battled the creeping darkness within. The interface's hum had turned into a roar, a cacophony of clashing wills that threatened to shred her mind. "Stay with me," Malik urged, gripping her hand tightly. Around them, scientists and soldiers held their breath, watching as the fate of worlds balanced on a knife's edge. Neil's voice came through the comms, calm but resolute. "The giant's cleansing protocol is ancient, a last resort. It will purge the corruption, but it requires a catalyst, a willing life force to merge fully with the giant's essence and ignite the rebirth." Brant's voice crackled in the background. "Are we ready to lose her?" Kara's eyes opened wide, a mixture of fear and fierce determination. "If this is the only way to save this world, I accept." With a nod, Nail initiated the cleansing sequence. The neural interface pulsed with radiant energy, flooding Kara's senses with overwhelming power and memories of the giant's creators. The Titan's ancient voice echoed within her mind. To cleanse is to sacrifice, to become one. Kara's vision blurred as her consciousness began to merge deeper into the giant's vast mind. She felt herself dissolving, her identity folding into something larger and more profound. The boundaries between self and machine, organic and synthetic, began to fade. Outside, the battle intensified. Varkan Bloodclaw led a desperate assault against the spreading corruption, his Deathworlder warriors fighting alongside human troops in brutal, close-quarters combat. The jungle was a maelstrom of fire, plasma, and savage claws. "Hold the line," Varkan roared, slashing through corrupted beasts. "For the giant, for our future." The Alliance's resolve solidified. This was no longer just a war for territory, but for survival itself. Back in the neural chamber, Kara's consciousness plunged into the giant's core. There, she encountered fragments of its ancient creator's ghosts of minds, preserved within the machine's memory banks. They spoke in a language of thought and emotion, offering guidance. "You carry the burden of rebirth," one whispered. "To cleanse the corruption, you must sacrifice your individuality, become the giant's eternal soul." Fear surged through Kara, but with it came clarity. This is more than sacrifice, she realized. It's transformation. As the cleansing energy surged outward, Kara's body glowed with an ethereal light, her physical form beginning to merge with the giant's systems. The neural interface radiated waves of pure power that swept across the planet's surface. Corruption withered under the cleansing light, jungle plants returning to their natural state. The dark tendrils receded as if burned away by an invisible flame. But the dark vessel in orbit was not defeated. It unleashed a final, desperate assault, sending a wave of destructive energy toward the planet, aiming to annihilate the cleansing process before it could complete. From the command ship Sentinel, Brant watched helplessly. "That weapon will destroy everything." Nell closed his eyes in concentration. "Not if the giant can awaken fully." Suddenly, the ground shook violently. The giant's massive form rose from the jungle floor, awakened and radiant, its eyes blazing with ancient light. Kara's merged consciousness pulsed within its core, part human, part machine, now one. The giant raised its colossal arms and unleashed a titanic energy wave, intercepting the destructive blast from the dark vessel in a thunderous collision of power. Varkan and his warriors looked up in awe as the giant's cleansing light spread, pushing back the darkness. The corrupted jungle began to heal, and the hostile forces recoiled. Kara's voice echoed faintly in the minds of all allies. Linked through the neural interface, we survived together. In orbit, the dark vessel's defenses faltered, its energy waning. The ancient invader had underestimated the strength born from human, Deathworlder, and giant entwined. As the vessel began to break apart, Neil's voice was steady. The shadow has been repelled, but the war is not over. Other threats lurk beyond the stars. On the ground, as the giant returned to dormant watchfulness, Kara's human form was gone. Yet, within the minds of those connected, her presence lingered, guiding light within the giant's vast consciousness. Malik knelt by the neural interface chamber, a silent tribute to the sacrifice made. Brandt clasped his shoulder, voice heavy but proud. She gave us a future. Varkan stepped forward, nodding grimly. The Deathworlders will remember. The giant's awakening was only the beginning. The alliance had been forged in the crucible of war and sacrifice. The darkness had been pushed back, but the stars beyond whispered of new dangers and ancient secrets still waiting to be uncovered. The giant now stood sentinel once. The morning sun cast long shadows over the jungle of Deathworld Gamma. Birds, once silenced by the corruption's advance, sang again. Green shoots pushed through blackened earth, reclaiming the scars of battle. The alien and human forces who had fought side by side now shared a fragile peace, tempered by sacrifice and the memory of the colossal guardian that had saved them all. In the clearing where the giant stood dormant once more, its immense form towered like a sleeping colossus, its eyes glowing faintly with Kara's lingering. Consciousness surveyed the horizon watchful, eternal. Captain Louise Brandt stood at the base of the giant, gazing upward. Though Kara's physical form was gone, her sacrifice had given humanity and the Deathworlders a future. A future where ancient alien technology and savage worlds might coexist and survive. Beside Brandt, Neil's presence was quiet but resolute. The giant is no longer just a machine, he said. It is a living archive, a protector and a beacon. Kara's essence within it is a bridge between species. Brandt nodded. A bridge we'll have to maintain carefully. Not everyone trusts what the giant represents. Varkan Bloodclaw approached, his massive frame imposing but his expression respectful. My clans will honor the giant and the memory of the human who became its heart, he said in his rough tongue, translated by Nail. The Deathworlders are ready to stand with you, Brandt replied, but the peace we've forged is fragile. Cross's faction still lurks in the shadows, unwilling to accept this alliance. Deep within the Sentinel, Major Rylan Cross paced like a caged predator. His jaw clenched as he reviewed battle reports and intercepted communications. Though defeated in his attempts to control the giant, his vision of human supremacy hadn't died. The giant is a threat, Cross muttered. It's a weapon too dangerous to leave uncontrolled. We'll find a way. But the look in his eyes betrayed fear not just of Kara's sacrifice, but of what lay beyond the stars. Far above Deathworld Gamma, the shattered remains of the dark vessel drifted in space, a grim reminder of the ancient threat still lurking in the void. Neil's sensors detected faint, irregular signals, whispers of a deeper darkness still waiting to strike. The invader may be broken, but it is not gone, Neil said grimly. We must prepare. Back on the planet, a memorial was quietly constructed near the neural interface chamber. Human and Deathworlder hands worked side by side, building a monument to Kara and the countless lives lost in the conflict. Malik, Kara's closest comrade, placed a simple plaque engraved with her final words, "We survived together." As the Alliance gathered for a cautious celebration, Kara's voice echoed once more, not through speakers, but in the minds of those connected to the giant. The darkness is ancient and patient, but so are we. This is not the end. It is a dawn. The giant's eyes flickered brighter, a silent vow resonating across the planet. Captain Brandt addressed the assembled crowd. Today, we honor sacrifice, unity, and hope. The giant will stand sentinel over Deathworld. Command, we will stand vigilant. The challenges ahead are immense, but so is our resolve. Nail stepped forward. We have forged an alliance born in fire. Let it be a beacon to the galaxy that peace can grow in the darkest places. Vulcan raised his voice in a primal battle cry, a promise echoed by all. We are the Deathworlders. We endure. In the quiet aftermath, Brandt and Nail met in the giant's shadow. What now? Brandt asked. Now we prepare, Nail replied. For the darkness beyond and for the legacy Kara left us. High above, the stars glittered cold and indifferent. Somewhere out there, the ancient invaders stirred once more, watching, waiting. But down on